thank you for being here. And I think it's one of the best openings of a festival, of my festival, you can say, because it exactly means what I want to try to transmit is that the artists are artists in everything they do, and this film that you saw is something that mostly any one of you that know the, the trajectory of Lou Reed, everything he made, you could not expect it. And thank you for this. And I would like to start asking, when did you have the idea of doing the film with Shirley, and why this subject on you?
It dawned on me about 5 years ago that Shirley was a living link with so much that we read about, that we go through, the results of war, etc. And she was actually there. Hard to believe. And she's, as you see, enormously articulate. So I thought it would be a terrible thing not to get her down on film so other people could see this amazing person.
Do you think there is things, in the character that it's close to you, Shirley, is a rebel, almost with causes, not without causes, a rebel with causes?
I tried to stay away from psychoanalyzing me or Shirley.
Okay, then let's start talking with you.
Well, Shirley's very smart.
Okay.
Very stubborn. To survive all of what she survived, you've got to be really tough. She is really tough. She's 102 now and had a heart attack. And she's up and at 'em again. Incredible. That's why the bad guys will never, ever win. One of the things about Shirley is that she's even here. And she has very formulated views of things. And to cut to the chase, I know what you're trying to ask, and I can't really answer that. But having said that, I once said that to her. I said, Shirley, what's the secret? Shirley, how do you do this? How do you get there? She's been through some things I can't tell you about that. It's hard to believe. She's still. And she said, She said, Lou, you do what you can. I.e., that's the hand you're dealt, and get on with it. And I've never heard her complain. Once I called her up. I said, Shirley, how you doing? I wish I was dead. I said, but besides that.
The film that you just saw, Red Shirley, what was the biggest challenge for you in this art?
I wanted to do justice by her. I wanted to show her the way I see her. I wanted to paint the most beautiful portrait of her. I didn't want to disappoint my own expectations of trying to bring her to life.
My youngest son would like to know what is the record of your life, if there is any particular, of course.
It's available in the stores. Pick one. I've written about 700 odd songs, so it's a little hard to say which one. I think they're all the same one. It's one big major symphony of song. I always thought in the end it's a novel.
You opted to tell about the story of Shirley on the First World War, the Second World War, and then the last 30 years they're off. Was that a choice? Did you talk more? Was the choice to edit like this?
The last 30 years deals with her experience in the Union. And then we stop. We don't go into what happens in old age, what happens when your husband dies, you know, what happens when they have to operate on your shoulder and you're so old you can't take the anesthetic, so you tell them, only give me a half. And then you hear them cutting through the bone. There's a whole other bunch of things. That's where I come from. They said, it'll hurt. She said, so?
Do you think that these qualities get lost in generations which really haven't gone through lots of troubles but are complaining all the time?
That's too deep for me. If I could answer a question like that, you could make me the head of a university.
No, why?
I would say one thing, though, is that the toughness and exuberance and ebullience that she evidences is the greatest lesson of how to get through life. But you need really great old people to show you that, not shunt them aside.
Do you ever get nostalgic for the 60s?
You're joking, right? Do you get nostalgic for the 40s?
How do you see the relationship between Tai Chi and rock and roll?
I think you play better if you do Tai Chi. Better breath, more power. I think you could last longer. I think Fa Ji is like a power chord. Fa Ji is called exploding power. So it's like someone dumped boiling water on you and you react that fast, except it's directed towards the other person. If you want to see something really great, go to YouTube and type in Chen Chao Wang Fa Ji. If you want to actually see what it is, if you're actually interested.
In the Shirley movie, there was a constant switch between color and black and white, and I would like to know if it was your choice or the cinematographer's choice, or how, why.
Me.
And
Because that camera, it looked fantastic in color, it looked fantastic in black and white. I just seen Solitary Man, the Tom Ford movie, where he was changing the color very subtly. And we didn't have money to go do that, but our black and white was so gorgeous, and we do it on a rhythm, you know, and say, now. So that's me.
And so I found the movie very moving. Maybe because I'm a migrant. I mean, I'm living in Portugal. I'm not Portuguese, I'm Italian. So I think this movie tells something about migrations and moving.
It's also about, I mean, it's an extreme example of being an outsider.
Exactly. And so I was wondering.
She arrives not a word of English, and she's in a country that speaks French and English. And she's standing at a window crying because she feels she'll never, ever learn English. This is, I mean, she's 19 on her own with a couple of bucks in her pocket.
Yeah.
It's about an outsider. Everybody's felt like an outsider.
Yeah, for example,
Haven't you?
No, okay, well, I wasn't speaking Portuguese when I arrived here, so I can understand this feeling of being outsiders. But I was curious maybe to ask you about all these Chiles that are now around us. I mean, people are moving more and more, and I mean, we are not confronted to the extreme situations Chile was confronted to, like, I mean, the World War, the Nazi persecution, and the Holocaust. But I mean, what I was thinking and what I wanted to share with you is, it seems like Shirley had visible bad guys to fight, and places in which finally she has been accepted and she could speak in front, I mean, with the trade union in front. So I was wondering what has changed in the meantime. I mean, thinking about the US, the way the US is now leading with the problem of migrants, Europe, the way Europe is leading with the problem of migrants. So we have maybe a lot of Shirleys, but maybe their situation is even, I don't know how to say, is more complicated, because at the time of Shirley, at the end, she could experience some situation in which, even if outsider, she has been helped to become a little more insider, fighting for rights, etc. So we're just sharing this.
I don't think she had more opportunity, believe me. You know, she fought for everything she ever got, starting from zero. And she says herself, she said, it's not easy for a new immigrant. It wasn't easy then, it's not easy now. As to what you could do about that, and the hundreds of thousands of Shirleys that are out there, if that's what you're talking about, that's another one of those unanswerable questions. What to do about that? I mean, not to open a door, but in the United States, Obama bailed out the very people who fucked it up. He gave money to bail out those companies who had fired 45,000 people in Detroit, for instance. Did they get a bailout? No. They didn't get the bailout. The rich guy got the bailout. What's that? So immigrant has a pretty hard time now too. There's no jobs. Okay? I've loved taking pictures ever since the Warhol factory, playing around with high contrast film, high contrast video. I love doing that. I love looking through a camera, because when I look through a camera, it's like I'm in a movie theater. I really love that. And I love that you can make something more beautiful than what it really is. I love that you could do that. I could play God with the planet. I was feeling a little romantic. I was in a very beautiful place, and I had had this camera that had been hacked. And I was taking pictures with it, and I noticed this amazing quality in there. I'll tell you something for real. This is not joking. If you go out and look at the pictures, but you really look at a certain distance, and it's a very specific distance, we put out, I know you don't know this, we put out little marks on the floor. If you stand there, the picture's 3D. Why? I don't know why. How did it get done? I don't know, but I took a picture and saw that and went crazy. And that was the driving force behind it. I just, I could take a picture of a tree and have these astonishing leaves that look like silk with this great depth of field going on. It's like unbelievable. But I'm not a tech head. I can't tell you why it happened.
I'm a cinema student, and I've got the ambition to touch someone, not to touch literally, but how does it feel coming to your age, or 2010, and knowing that your art or anything you've made has touched thousands of people?
Enormously lucky.
Thank you. Thank you.